The police do incredible work, and they are usually the first ones on the scene when something goes wrong. Every so often though, they will encounter something that even they can't explain. One of the places where officers are seeing strange things is that of the Navajo Reservation of the American Southwest. This location is known for mysterious and legendary stories, and the police here have encountered some strange things. One of the issues though is when police report these types of encounters, they can be mocked and looked down on. The police at the Navajo Reservation, however, have a different view on things. They take these sightings and encounters seriously, and will try to look into and understand each report. For the last few decades, many strange reports have been coming out of this region, so it's clearly not just them that are encountering mysterious things. The NNR gives people somewhere to go for such cases. They have allowed people to talk to them and have their cases investigated. One Navajo ranger opened up about some of the things they've witnessed, and this all happened while being on duty. He reported the following incident. While driving, I encountered something that to this day is stuck with me. I was driving through Crown Point, but I could see that something was running alongside my car. I slowed down so I could get a better look at this thing, not realizing that at this time I was driving around 30 miles per hour, so whatever this thing was, it was easily keeping up with my car. When I looked in my mirror, I could see that this thing looked like a giant dog. It ran to the passenger's side and bumped the car. I then pulled to the right so I could get a better look at this thing, and the only way I can describe it is that it looked like a giant wolf. I then braked hard, which meant I was able to tuck in behind it, after which I put on my full beams and got a clear view of this thing. I would say it was around 6 feet in length and incredibly hairy. The creature only stayed within the full beams for a matter of seconds, before it quickly ran off into the distance. I have no idea what it was, and if I had to be honest, I'd say that it looked like a mix between a man and a wolf." End quote. For many years now, the Navajo has interested paranormal researchers, as they have said this location is a hotspot for things such as skinwalkers, dogmen, and UFOs. The skinwalker is said to be a humanoid that's able to change its appearance on command. The Navajos are a Native American people who would go into detail about these mysterious creatures. They would tell stories of how they were able to perform superhuman feats, and that if one was nearby it would be wise to try and avoid it at all costs. However, others have said that if it's at the point where it's already reached you, you have no chance of getting away. Skinwalkers are believed to be individuals of whom underwent a cursed ritual, and gain the ability to shapeshift into a wolf-like creature whenever they choose. This term comes from that of old Navajo legends that claim that when a tribal member committed a social taboo, something otherwise not accepted by the tribe as a whole would cause the tribe to come together to perform a ritual that would curse that person. This would cause the said person into becoming part animal and cursing them to live a life of solitude, being forced to change from their human form into a large animalistic form whenever their unstable desire began to take control. In the Navajo language, the word skinwalker translates to he who walks on all fours, and for good reason. Those who have encountered these creatures have said that not only do they possess the ability to transform into a variety of creatures, but they're also able to move extremely fast on all fours. What's interesting though is that although these legends have been around for many years, it's only been in the last 20 years or so that these stories have been brought to the public's attention. Those who have visited the Navajo region have reported seeing bizarre-looking creatures, some of which resembled the mythical skinwalker. This isn't the only place that houses skinwalkers though. Skinwalker Ranch was named after the numerous encounters with these creatures. Interestingly, many believe that skinwalkers are at the center of the strange reports surrounding the Skinwalker Ranch, as many of the creatures described in the numerous encounters held by people are that of large beasts. These have been reported as walking on their hind legs and possessing many of the powers that a skinwalker is said to have, One such power is the ability to mimic any animal noise, as well as the ability to sound like any person that hears it speaking. This strange ability has been heard by numerous eyewitnesses, of whom claim to have seen a large moving beast in the area, as well as hearing a number of large animal calls shortly after, as well as their own voice being echoed back to them after they called out in fear. What's worrying is that it's said if you hear these sounds the skinwalker is stalking you. Even more worrying is that most people celebrate when they hear the sounds getting fainter, thinking the creature is getting further away, but this is not the case. It's said that the skinwalker does this on purpose in order to make you think you're getting away from it. Then when you start to relax, it strikes. Not many people have heard these sounds and lived to tell the tale, as it's reported every year people go missing in these regions, and it's because of skinwalkers. These claimed sightings and legends have led to the entire area becoming known as Skinwalker Ranch, with many believing that the local Native American legends involving the creature were told in truth about a population of such cursed people, transforming in the region and having a small population throughout the area. For the past few days, residents in Colorado have been seeing some strange things. It first started at the end of January when residents reported seeing large objects in the sky. People all throughout Colorado witnessed this event and thought that perhaps it was a natural phenomenon. However, those who saw these objects couldn't understand what they were looking at. One of the first people to have reported this instance said the objects appeared to be flat, almost in the shape of a disc, and looked to be falling high in the sky. They were described as being white in colour and making no noise. A few reports were submitted to MUFON, which stands for the Mutual UFO Network, with people being confused about the whole event. However, the same three objects have just been seen again above Colorado, causing residents to question what these things are. Some people reached out to NASA to ask them if they knew what these objects were, or if any space debris was detected falling over Denver, Colorado. NASA reported they hadn't detected anything in the area that would suggest it belonged to them or was something like space debris. At this moment, it's estimated around a few thousand people witnessed the strange objects falling towards Earth. Various photographs and videos were shared online, prompting amateur UFO researchers to put forward their theories to try and explain what was seen. One of the eyewitnesses who saw the objects in the sky on the first day said the following: "I was having my morning coffee, and I normally look out the window while I'm doing that. I looked up and asked my friend if they could see those weird smoke trails. The trails were long at first and you could see there was a direction change in the upper atmosphere. As it got lower to the ground, I would say within 1,500 feet, they slowly started changing directions and started heading towards east towards Buckley Air Force Base. There was no sound, no odour and no strange electromagnetic sensations. These objects did not appear to be in a hurry, and they maintained a straight heading. Had I not looked at them directly, I probably would have imagined them to be a chemtrail coming from an aircraft. However, all three of these maintained a perfect formation until they was out of sight." End quote. While another person said the following: "I observed three large white objects travelling at a high rate of speed. They maintained their formation and had long tails. The best description is that they looked like a cloud teardrop. 10:45 in the morning and no clouds in the sky, and I observed these very large objects appear to fall and then move east at a high rate of speed. They maintained their brightness and formation until I lost sight of them due to trees and buildings." End quote. With another person saying this: "I was with my sister at the time, and we both observed three large white objects in the sky. Although it looked like they were free-falling to me, they were clearly being controlled and belonged to some craft. The only reason I saw them was because I looked up in the sky. If I'd been walking and didn't look up, I'm sure I wouldn't have seen them, as they weren't making any noise. I took my own photographs and sent them to family members, and they were also confused. I observed them with my sister for several minutes until they drifted out of view." End quote. Someone who observed the crafts though had an idea for what they could be. They said the following: "These crafts look like they're flying in formation. I think these most likely belong to the military, and these crafts are keeping a strict formation and flying at a high altitude." With that being said though, I've seen a number of these strange contrail videos that show similar looking objects. I personally think they belong to the military, but they sure are weird looking. Normally you can make out the crafts, but in this case you can't. This is why it leads me to suggest that whatever these things are, they're high up in the atmosphere." End quote. Others noted that the objects aren't free falling, so are unlikely to be something like a piece of space debris, with eyewitnesses backing up this idea and saying that while they observed them they could see the objects changing direction. One UFO researcher said they've been researching this case and talking to residents and eyewitnesses in the area, and they said that people have now reported that these objects were seen close to Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho. They said it's interesting that these objects have been detected above Air Force bases, and that this could be a link, but they also said that in the past unidentified flying objects have easily entered restricted airspace, and when they're chased by the military they easily outmaneuver them. This isn't a secret either. Many pilots have come forward in recent years and detailed their encounters with unidentified flying objects, and some of those pilots said that whatever these things are, they're much more advanced than their crafts, and if they were to attack they would have been in serious trouble. So although there could be a military link, it doesn't rule out the possibility these crafts are UFOs, as the past has shown us that wherever these crafts want to go they can do so with ease. Residents close to the Rocky Mountains have said they've also seen these crafts, and that again they were staying in a strict formation. It's interesting that these objects have been seen by multiple eyewitnesses. The majority of the time UFO sightings are rushed, but in this case thousands of people have observed these strange crafts. As of right now, people are still trying to figure out what these things are. Egyptologists have just announced they've discovered a 2,000-year-old mummy, but something was a little different about this one. As archaeologists and researchers went in for a closer look, they noticed that the mummy had a golden tongue. The Antiquities Ministry said the finding was made at Alexandria's Taposiris Magna Temple, and that during the excavation they found 16 burials. Egyptologists said that after the individual had passed on, they were immediately given a golden tongue, and this was done for the sole purpose of them being able to speak before the high court of the god Osiris in the afterlife. Ancient Egyptians had a strong relationship with their gods, and they believed that Osiris ruled the underworld and would judge the dead. The researchers also found that Osiris was decorated on the linen of one of the mummies. Lead archaeologist Kathleen Martinez of the University of Santo Domingo was cited by the Antiquities Ministry as saying this is an incredible discovery. The Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities uploaded the following statement: "The Egyptian Dominican Mission of the University of Santo Domingo, headed by Dr. Kathleen Martinez, working at the Taposiris Magna Temple in Western Alexandria, succeeded in discovering 16 burials in the rock-cut tombs that were popular in the Greek and Roman eras. Within these shafts were a number of mummies in poor state of preservation. Inside is what highlights the characteristics of mummification in Greek and Roman eras, as it was found remnants of gilded cartilage, in addition to amulets of gold foil in the form of a tongue that was placed in the mouth of the mummy, and this was done in a special ritual to ensure their ability to speak in the afterlife before the Osirian court." Dr. Kathleen Martinez explained that among the most important of these mummies are 2 mummies that were preserved in the remains of scrolls and parts of the cartilage, the first with remains of gilding and bearing gilded decorations showing the god of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, while the other mummy wears a crown, decorated with horns and the cobra snake at the forehead. The chest of the mummy shows a gilded decoration representing the wide necklace from which hangs the head of a falcon, the symbol of the god of Horus. Dr. Khalid Abu el-Hamed, Director General of the Alexandria Antiquities, said that during this season the mission found a number of archaeological discoveries, the most important of which is a funeral mask for a woman, 8 golden flakes representing the leaves of the golden wreath, and 8 masks of marble dating back to the Greek and Roman eras, and these show high craftsmanship in sculpture and depiction of the features of its owners. It's worth noting that during the last 10 years the mission found an important group of archaeological finds that changed our perception of the temple of Taposiris Magna, where a number of coins bearing the name and image of Queen Cleopatra was found inside the temple walls, in addition to many parts and statues and temple grounds, which were adorned in the past to reveal the temple foundation panels, which proved it was built by King Ptolemy." End quote. This isn't the only recent discovery that's been made in Egypt. Archaeologists and researchers have said that for the last few years they've made some great strides in uncovering artifacts of the past. One of the most recent ones to be announced was that of new mummies that were discovered and dated to be 2,500 years old. In the ancient burial grounds of Saqqara, archaeologists made the greatest discovery of 2020. They found 40 funeral statues and over 100 painted wooden coffins, some of which still had mummies inside. The coffins date back 2,500 years and have been so well preserved that they're nearly in perfect condition. They likely belong to very wealthy people. Experts x-rayed one of the mummies, still wrapped in cloth, and determined that it was most likely a male around 40 years old. They also found funeral masks, canopic jars and amulets. Their findings also provided more knowledge about mummifications from that period of time. Zahi Hawass, an Egyptologist, said this discovery proves that Saqqara was the main burial site of the 26th dynasty, those that ruled from the 600s BC to 525 BC. Saqqara has several burial sites, and many significant archaeological finds have been discovered in the city. Since September, around 140 sealed sarcophagi have been revealed from the area, all containing mummies. Archaeologists expect to continue making new discoveries in 2021. The discovered artifacts and coffins will soon be on display at museums in Cairo. One of these museums will be the Grand Egyptian Museum, which is now under construction near the Giza Pyramids. It should open sometime this year, and these new discovered artifacts are expected to bring in new visitors. Experts hope these discoveries will bring tourism to Egypt, since it has decreased over the past several years due to political turmoil. There's still many Egyptian discoveries that have left people to question how they came to be. Some historians have been questioning the true age of the Egyptian pyramids. Whilst we actively assume that the ancient Egyptians built these impressive monuments, many now believe that the Great Pyramids of Giza may have been built by lost civilization. This idea is fueled by the materials of the Sphinx. People currently think that the Sphinx has been made from a natural rock, carved into the iconic shape before sand covered the area. This suggests that long prior to the ancient Egyptians arriving, the land had been fertile. This has been theorized by Malcolm Hutton and Jerry Cannon. Cannon explained the following: "You can't carve a rock when it's under sand." This theory prompted further research. The pair carried on theorizing and gathering more evidence. Their calculations indicated that the Sphinx and their pyramids had been built around 12,500 years ago, nearing towards the Ice Age. Some people have suggested that incredibly advanced civilizations lived on Earth. Some even name Atlantis as an example. Through their society's creations and breakthroughs, they were allegedly wiped out and destroyed through flooding. These theorists continue to explain that the sunken city of Atlantis had structures similar to the Egyptian pyramids. We continue to discover plenty of Egypt's secrets, but many remain hidden. Many of the ideas that people create simply conflict and criticize existing ideas. This constant changing and revising of ideas leaves us with many unanswered questions, and perhaps we won't ever find the solutions. Since the early 1990s, there have been stories about black-eyed children. These entities are said to have a dark presence, and whenever someone encounters them they feel uneasy. Those who have come forward and reported their encounters have been left scared and wanting answers. One of the problems though is that many eyewitnesses can't prepare for these encounters. What usually happens is one of the entities will knock on the door and take the person on the other side by surprise. The encounter is rushed and the person is usually left terrified by the experience. People that have experienced black-eyed children have said they've never encountered these individuals before, which has led paranormal researchers to say that the encounters seem random and not planned. This story was sent to me a while back and revolves around a woman who had a creepy encounter. The woman said the following: "My name is Lisa and I live in Telford. My boyfriend came over to stay on this particular night and we decided to go for a walk. Where I live is a beautiful place and I generally feel very safe where I am. After eating dinner we decided to head out for our walk. Everything was fine, but around 40 minutes in we noticed something strange. After being midway through our walk, my boyfriend picked up on the fact that we were being followed by a child. I looked back and I saw the little girl. However, I couldn't really make out what she looked like because it was dark. My boyfriend asked me whether we should go over and see if they're okay, but I thought she may have been with her family. 10 minutes after this encounter, I looked behind us and the little girl was gone, but things only got more strange. A few minutes we came to a dark crossroad and the little girl started to walk towards us. Not only did this scare us, but we wondered how she managed to get in front. We decided to walk towards the little girl, but both of us were nervous. We thought that she may have been lost, and thought it would be best to go and ask if she was lost and needed assistance. As soon as we were around 15 feet from this girl, we both looked at each other. This girl's eyes were completely blank, and not only that, but her clothing looked really old. She said in a calm voice, "I need you to come with me." She pointed at me and during the whole encounter blinked my boyfriend. I said no and quickly walked off. While doing so, she just stood there and stared at us. It's the creepiest thing that's ever happened to me, and I have no answers for what we encountered that night. End quote. Another guy reported his strange encounter. He said the following: "While going for a jog, I encountered two beings. I don't want to call them children because something wasn't right. I like to think of myself as a brave kind of guy, but this is something that really got to me. In fact, it stayed with me to this day. While jogging, I see these two figures in the distance. It was dark at this point, but it wasn't uncommon to see people, as my jogging route is near quite a busy area. Occasionally you would see people walking their dogs or couples walking hand in hand. However, these people didn't seem like any of those. Where I jog there are two paths you can take, and I usually take the right path, but on this particular night these two beings were standing in the middle of the right path. I had to go this way as it then loops me around to where I started. However, as I approached them, something seemed off. The two beings both had their heads down. One was a girl and the other was a boy. I took my headphones out and started to get worried. I thought that perhaps they were lost or needed help. As I approached though, I could see the boy kept looking up and then back down really quickly, almost as if to see how close I was getting. This immediately put me on edge as it came across as weird. I asked them if they needed help and this was when I was taken back. Both of them had dark black eyes. I felt like I was being drawn into them. They asked me if I could give them a ride home. I explained that they could see me running down the path and that I didn't have my car close by. I asked where they were from and they said that's not important. They asked me if I'd let them in my house to use the telephone. At this point I really started to panic and pretended I had a phone call. I then made a quick getaway. The reason I don't like to call them children is because something was off. These beings talked in a strange way. They sounded too intelligent for their age. They also used old words that don't get used nowadays. You may think it's strange that I ran off, but these beings weren't normal. They did not act scared but were actually rather intimidating. The way they stared at me with their black eyes just freaked me out. I also got a bad feeling inside when I was around them." End quote. This last story features a man who is alone with his daughter. He claims that he was sleeping in his daughter's bedroom, but could hear a knocking sound outside of the house. He thought it may have been one of the neighbor's cats, and so tried to fall back asleep, but this odd noise continued. The man looked around his house and could see two figures standing outside the window. He then saw them walk around and knock on the front door. Both were boys aged between 9 and 12 years old. The man also noticed that they gave off a mouldy odor. The boys asked the man, "May we use your telegraph?" He quickly realized that something wasn't right, and as they stepped into the light he noticed that they had jet black eyes. He quickly shut the door and ran up to his daughter's bedroom. The man held his daughter tight as the strange individuals continued to knock on the door throughout the night. So what do you make of these strange black-eyed children stories? Do you think they're based on fact, or just urban legends? Also, what would you do if these black-eyed children knocked on your door? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below, and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.